Resume review from Marina. So, immediately, one of the things that I like is the fact you actually have your LinkedIn profile hyperlinked on your resume. This is something that I've been asking people to do for the last couple of weeks, and still haven't seen many, if any, resumes who have done this. So, plus points on that side. Your show reel goes next, which links to your YouTube. This makes sense because you are a motion designer and video editor, so showing off your work is the best thing that employers will have to see to be able to make a decision on you. And the quality of your work matters more when you are a motion designer and video editor, as it's based on individual taste rather than just reading your resume or its kind. Professional summary section. So you introduce yourself as a senior motion designer. I like the fact that there is consistency between uh, the title that you give yourself and what you put in your professional summary. This is great. 14 years experience in audio visual production, branding, and high impact digital campaigns. Excellent in digital storytelling. It would be great if you show proof of this. Proven track record in digital marketing strategies, institutional campaigns, and international projects within the creative economy, strategic. Yeah, this is great. I would get rid of this because everybody would hope that you are that to some degree. And when you say proven track record, it would be great if you could add some numbers that actually do showcase this as proof that you can do these things. I think it's clear from your resume that you probably can, but it needs to be mentioned here as well. Next, professional experience section. Okay, cool. So you've got the your title followed by the company and then the years that you was there for. This is good. What I would say here is remove this from each of your jobs. And just check if there's anything else. Okay, so you don't mention in any of the other roles. This is just my personal opinion. Is that you should remove this section, and instead, what you can do is for your key results and projects instead is see if there's a way where you can sum this up in a way. So it seemed like you mentioned every production that you was part of, which maybe for your industry this is the done thing, and because you work in the creative field is different compared to those who may work in STEM or more traditional roles. But at first glance, when I see a list of bullet points of every single project that you've had, it more or less reads to me like a bit of an IMDb profile of every single feature that you've been in, rather than being able to see the impact of that. Whereas with this one, I can clearly see the impact of what you did. So you drove an average 15% increase in follower growth and share of voice per edition. That is the most impactful thing that I can see so far. That is metrics bound or is metrics based. So it would be great if some of the others could have some similarity with that. So it's great you've had these productions. You know, if because you are a creative, maybe the goal is to link to each of the individual projects. Maybe you could do that. I'm not necessarily sure how that would be received by hiring managers in the creative field per se, but just from my experience as a non-creative looking at this, my opinion would be to have your resume be more focused on the impact that you had. So ensuring that you mention things like this, and probably just put the top 3 or 4 projects that you did do and the impact of those. So that was the last 6 years roughly. So then pre-2019, okay, it's kind of in a similar thing as well. I wonder if there's anything that you remember from these campaigns and the impact that they had, even showing like then the amount of views that they got. I think that's really important. Number of views, number of watches, whatever the core metrics are that a production company or the organizations that you worked with would use to tell whether a project was successful or not. I think those should be included here, and that would make it easier for you to get an advantage over other candidates. So, for example, here we see motion graphics for social media and paid media. So that would be, especially on the paid media side. So a company has paid money to get their ads pushed onto different platforms. They would have spent a certain amount. And those ads would have garnered a certain number of impressions and a CTR, and conversions, things like that. I wonder if you have access to any of those numbers, or if you could guesstimate what those numbers were that you was partaking in, but your motion graphics work was included in. For example, did you do work in any out of home campaigns, and are you aware of like what the success of those campaigns were? If you are, then you should include that, because it's one thing being able to produce a great body of work and to list it, and as we know, it can be seen as quite subjective. But if we can also see the impact of that, then it would make it a lot easier. So here again, we have like paid media. So it seems like a lot of the work that you do, some of the work that you have done has been in paid media, institutional videos, instruction videos, launch campaigns, brand awareness stuff. So very, very, very curious to see how much brand awareness did you lift? What was the number of impressions, the click-throughs, the conversions, the revenue attained? That is completely missing from all of these. But again, maybe for being a video editor or a video producer per se, it might not be seen as important for those in your industry, but this tends to be it. Yeah, you've done some really great work over the years, and you speak 3 languages, which is fantastic. Yeah, so the most of the improvements that can be made is in the professional experience section, especially the work that you do at the Creative Lab. And I wonder, there might not be a need to include both technical and strategic scope. It could be worth merging them into one section, which I think could be more helpful. And then do the same for your other ones as well, so that you're not just reeling off a list of campaigns. Because if you're reading off a list of campaigns, the hiring manager, they haven't watched all these things, so they don't actually know, and they haven't seen the work, so they don't necessarily know what the benefits of it is. And yeah, I like the technical skills section that you've put here. So I like the fact that you've also split it into different sections. So you mentioned the technical kit that you use and have experience with. You put software tools that specific to product management, and then for this one you call it software, but I'll probably just call it video editing or video editing software, as we know that because this is also software, right? Asana and Jira is also software, but it's project management software, so it would just help to differentiate. But other than that, this is a good resume. You just need to make those changes around the experience section. That's where the bulk of your improvements will come from, and the rest should be pretty good. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else that comes to mind for me as I'm looking at the resume report that I actually wrote on another screen. Yeah, so you have 20 bullets in general, but only 2 of them carry an actual number, which is genuinely strong. You need to make sure that you include numbers on the other ones. See what else do we have. Yeah, the only other minor thing is probably just to bold the metrics as well when you do end up adding them. Like, for example, this is good. Production of promos for FIFA FanFest 2014, an average of 15,000 attendees per match. At least there is some kind of metric there to be able to visualize what the number would look like, what the number looks like in someone's head, in a hiring manager's head. I think this is important. And I also think the fact that you speak 3 languages, I think is something that you should actually put higher up in your resume, in your professional summary. You know, being able to speak multiple languages is a huge benefit. So it would also open you up to be able to apply to roles that on initial viewing they may consider you to not be qualified for, but because you speak multiple languages, this will be really helpful. That's pretty much it on this side. I hope this helped, and thanks for viewing. Speak soon. Bye.